first episode of Behind the Smoke, a series that we are going to post episodes to 2 times a month, so bi-monthly. Our flagship item that really got us a lot of attention and put us on the map is our brisket. So we will be starting our first episode with that. So we're going to go from starting our fires to prepping brisket episode today, to applying our rub, smoking durations, little things that we do throughout the smoking duration to get as much consistency as we possibly can, and to really stay true to our authenticity with just straight wood fires and reverse flow smokers that we build ourselves. So yeah, we're gonna get started and show you guys how this process begins. Okay, so this morning we got here a little after 5 a.m. or so, and we will start by, the first thing we do right when we get in the morning is fire up the big pit, get the fire going, get all the steel warmed up so that after we're done with our prep, whichever category we're doing, we can put it in and know that that's gonna be at temp and be, flowing consistent. So this is how we get that process started. Obviously we use all the wood around us, range from smaller pieces such as this to, monsters that go into our big pit. I mean, you could put like a 3-foot whole log in there. But to get started, we use a little torch like this. This is a Bison. I believe it's ordered online actually by my PR manager who's shooting all of this. At first I thought it was kind of silly because it just produces a small flame, but it works perfect because to get our big fires going, we use just a cheap, this is called Pro Light charcoal, and it's like Kingsford black bag match light. So it's got a coat of lighter fluid on it, and it just sparks up immediately. So we lay a bed of that down, and we use our flame to get those started, and then we'll put our pieces of wood, usually smaller to mid-size, to get that fire started, and then let that burn straight for like 45 minutes to an hour before we put any product into the pit, to make sure that all of the charcoal that we use to start the fire is burned off, all that lighter fluid that is on those briquettes has been extinguished, and it just produces a really nice glowing, white ambers, to then put more of our wood onto larger pieces until we get to a really nice consistent amount of wood in that big firebox. Okay, so now getting into the prep of the brisket, we use a 16, it's like 18-pound, totally untouched brisket. Actually get it out of Canada. We don't take the knife to it at all. It's pretty, I don't want to say really cleaned up, but the amount of fat that is on there consistently that I get from the meatpacking plant is exactly what I want. So we're going to leave this exactly how it is, and then to apply our rub, we're going to lay this fat cap down and apply that rub to what we call at the smokehouse just the meat side. And you can see obviously the red showing through, you can see the grain of the brisket. You want to have that up when you apply your rub, and then we use just a generic shaker with a lid and medium size opening on the screen, if you will, or the cap. And inside this shaker, all we have is ground pepper, black pepper, garlic salt, and a little bit of kosher salt. And that is it. There's no secret, there's nothing that we use that's extremely rare. That is our rub, very simplistic, and really just to complement the brisket and the meat once we slice and serve. So we're gonna apply that to the meat side up, and we're gonna coat that moderately, nothing over the top, nothing crazy. It's not gonna be like, an inch thick, and pat it down, and that's it. This brisket is good to go, and we're gonna do the same to the next 50 that we're gonna throw on our pits this morning. Okay, so now we have our brisket prepped and ready. Our pit has been fired up about now almost going on 2 hours prior. So it is up to temp, as we show. We run about 190 to 210 degrees. So when that's nice and consistent throughout the main smoking chamber, we're gonna pull out the racks. Our bottom rack on this pit is 48 inches deep. On top of that, our middle is 45, and then 37 on our top rack in the larger pit. But today we're gonna be using our big pit, and we're gonna load our briskets onto that, and that is just a straight reverse flow stick burner that we built actually out of a decommissioned water tower. So this is one of the water stems, and as I said before, it's 48 inches deep in diameter, and this is about 15 feet long and about 7 feet tall. So to put our brisket on the pit, we are going to smoke that fat cap up, so that rub that we applied earlier is going to be facing down, and we're going to set this so that the top, the decal, if you will, or the butt as we call it, That top decal butt is going to be facing the back of the pit. So the brisket is going to be that rub, that meat side is going to be facing down. And we're going to set these so there's a bit of space in between them so they're not crowded on top of one another. And then we're just going to slide that in, and we will not open this door for 12 hours. So I believe we slid these in here at 7:30, 7:45 a.m. and we will not open this door until about 8 p.m. tonight. And that is just to check the temps, and then we'll pull these off around 11:30 p.m. and we'll show you guys the rest of that process once we get back into it. Okay, so we had a duration on those 4 briskets that we showed of 16 hours. We pulled those from the pit, and we want those internally prior to pulling to be 195 to 198. That's the internal temperature that we pull at. Once we remove those from the pit, we had those on our prep table, and we remove what we call here at the Smokehouse the shark fin of the brisket, which is which the video will show is that kind of fin that comes up off the decal. We slice that off so that it's a nice even surface for when we wrap. And then we tuck that in the tin, which makes phenomenal burnt ends later on. We also use that decal for burnt ends, which we'll show in another episode of Behind the Smoke here at the Victory Smokehouse. So we slice off that shark fin. We're going to wrap these briskets basically immediately after pulling them from the pit. After that internal temperature is 195 to 198. We're going to wrap them in that heavy duty foil, and then we're going to slide those right into our Carlisle hot box. Those will sit there anywhere from 3 to 4 hours minimum up to 12 hours hot holding, and then we'll take those from that stage right into slicing for our customers as the line develops in the morning when we open. Okay, so to conclude the first episode of Behind the Smoke here at Victory Smokehouse, featuring the flagship, the brisket, we prepped our brisket with basically a very simplistic ground black pepper, a garlic salt, and a little bit of kosher salt. We fired up our pit and got that to 195 to 210 degrees in our main smoking chamber, and we smoked that brisket for 16 hours. So I'm going to go 16 to 18 is usually what we run. We removed that from the pit. Also keep in mind we did not open the main smoking chamber for 12 solid hours, so that door did not open once until we checked temps 12 hours into the process. So after that 16, we removed it from the pit, we put it into our aluminum tins, we wrapped it with a heavy duty foil, and we put it into our Carlisle hot box where it will sit for 3 to 4 hours minimum in a hot hold, and then we slice and serve. Now, a couple notes: if you do not have a Carlisle hot box, which what was shown in the video, you can use a cooler, just a normal, average, going to the beach cooler. You can wrap that brisket in foil. You can wrap it in a towel, or if you have one, a sleeping bag works phenomenally. I believe that's a word. You tuck that into that cooler, close the lid, 3 to 4 hours, same end game. So it's the same type of process. Carlisle hot boxes just work really well for us because we're pulling 30 to 40 briskets off that pit at a time. We just showed the 4 here for the simplicity of the video. So yeah, very simplistic, very authentic, and very true to what we take a lot of pride in, and that like we talked about many times in this segment, the authenticity of the smoke process here at the Victory Smokehouse. So thank you for viewing. Hopefully you guys can do this at home. Send in your feedback and let us know how it turned out. And we will have another episode of Behind the Smoke at the Victory Smokehouse here in Warren, Michigan in about 2 weeks or so. All right, thanks a lot. Stay smoky.